So yeah, I went to Harbor Freight. I ended up getting a couple of these stands. I got 2 of them because I'm sure I'll get more scooters just to sauce it up on. I actually have a stand design I want to make for the electric scooters. This one sits a little higher than those, so it's going to be a little easier to work on. And right now, it's just not my priority to design one. So my version of a stand is going to have to wait until later. I'm out of breath because that thing's freaking heavy. It's like 102 pounds. It's crazy. So yeah, this is my office setup, by the way. I think you've already been in here. So now I just need to pull these motors off. They should all be mini motor stuff, so all standard stuff. I'm gonna pull these off, get some different tires on it soon. And I think the first thing I have to build is like a tire motor stand so that I can just like start assembling a scooter. So I actually don't know what that's gonna look like, so I just have to start tearing into this thing and like see how these motors are, and then I'll figure it out and go from there. Wish me luck. All right. I started tearing into the scooter yesterday, got super overwhelmed. Chris was like, I seriously can't believe that's legal. Yeah, no, that's fucked. But did a couple things. I printed off these handlebars, an SCS clamp. And so I don't like these. There's no place for a light unless you integrate it in, and I'm not like a big fan about that. And they just don't look visually heavy duty enough. Like I increased the size of our freestyle scooter like pretty far. Like this is a big clamp. Like it wouldn't work at all on my push scooter. But for an electric scooter, I just don't love like the size of this. So today, I'm actually gonna finish this. I'm gonna do a fork for this because I wanna see like the full thing together sitting on the motor with the tire. So I wanna have the fork come up. I'm just gonna make like a little head tube piece here. I got some bearings, some new headset bearings that are like a special size. And I'm gonna build the head tube and then I'm gonna build the fork. And that way I can kind of see this whole thing as an assembly. And then I have a new design after this one that I'll make that is a two steer tube design. Like, cause I call this a steer tube still, so that it would be 2 steer tube. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do today. So I think what's gonna happen first, I have to do payroll and a bunch of normal work stuff. But I think what's gonna happen first is I'm gonna print the crown race that this sets on the fork with a little bit of the tube, and that way I can check to make sure the tube fits in here in the bottom of the SCS clamp, and I can make sure the bearing sets on the crown race. And then I'm gonna measure off the standards from where the brake caliper mounts, where the brake caliper mounts, and I'm going to do a test piece to make sure the dropout fits on the motor. So if I test the compatibility with the bearing, the SCS, and the pinch ring, which I haven't done this yet, but I need to make sure that this works, which this doesn't. So great example there. So I need to do compatibility tests, size tests with this, the pinch ring, the bearing to go into the head tube, and then the bearing to sit on the fork, and then the dropout to fit on the motor. And if I print all those little test pieces, then I can just print the full fork and assemble the fork, and then I'll have like this style bar SCS head tube fork all done, and I can see what it looks like. And then from there, I will know what changes I need to make to the design. So let's get going. All right, so I just finished mocking up the stand. I'll show you that in a second. Sent it to the printer. The printer is gonna get it done. Here's what I came up with for a little stand. I mean, this looks fucking ugly, but whatever. This will hold the motor. The fork will sit on that since on the outside. The motors will sit in here. I'm just making the space in between the fork and the motor a little bit bigger. I added some more support so that it's wider through here for a little bit more support. But yeah, it should be pretty sick. I already know what it looks like on the complete scooter, but I'm gonna wait for you guys to just slowly see this thing come together. So yeah, wait for the printer to be done. While this is printing, I'm going to work on fixing the dust cover and then make it work with this new bearing I got. And then I'll print that next. I don't love the gap I'm getting, but for the purpose right now, this is good. This is the motor piece. There we go. Let's see how it fits. Yo, perfect. So that's how the motor will be supported. I think it will hold it. Should be fine. Because it's not that thin for very long, it thickens up down here. So when the filament comes for this in the next couple of days, we'll get these printed up, and then I'll have a way to hold the motors up while I work on everything else around it. Okay, this isn't the most fun part of the process, but next up, this is the plate we just printed. I'm assuming you can see some of my computer, just this little trial piece, headset. Next up, what I need to do is I need to print a sample piece of the head tube to where the bearing's gonna sit. And then I need to print a sample piece of the fork to see if it will fit in here and accept the bearing on top of it. So we're just gonna print a tiny piece of the bottom of the fork, and then we're gonna print a tiny piece of a head tube, and we'll go from there. I just sent the job to the printer to print. We're printing a top piece of the head tube and a tiny piece of the fork, so the bearing will sit on top of there. This diameter, the top diameter, would fit into the SCS, and then the bearing would drop into the top of this head tube piece. So we're gonna check the clearances, see what works, and then while I think that that's cranking out, I have like some boring business work to do. I have to process payroll. But I was thinking that on that motor stand, I should print a piece that will like check how it fits around the tire. So I printed to see if it will fit here, but I should print like a cross section piece that would kind of go out around and in, and it could be like really, really thin, but just something to make sure that that's going to fit all right, because I don't want to print, gosh, I don't even know how long one of those stands is going to take, 20 hours to print at least. So I don't want to like spend 20 hours printing something if it's not going to work. So I'm going to mock that up, and then in 40 minutes when these parts are done, I'll be able to send that piece to the printer, and then we'll be able to check these as well. So yo, that fits freaking perfect. All right, I see a couple changes I need to make, but nothing too crazy. This looks really good. Quite happy with it all. I think I'm gonna go ahead, since I have the model of the head tube done, I think I'm gonna go ahead and print this head tube. It also looks really sick. So this should be like the head tube I use. Now I probably won't use it for actual model, because I want to print it with like the tubes coming off of it, like the support tubes, because I don't want to just glue this up against something, you know. But that will help me kind of mock up the whole front end of the scooter. So I'm gonna print the front of that, and then what else do I have to do? I decided to print the test piece for the motor and the head tube all at once. So that's what we got right there. And I just like stacked all this up. It's pretty sick. So that's kind of what it will look like. So then this will obviously just grow. Boom. So I think I finally got these stands to print well. Boy woke me up at like 12:30 to eat, and so I like kept working on it. So this was my first print attempt. It like stuck and flaked off everywhere. Should be this one here. And then I made some adjustments, and I got this whole bundle here. And keep in mind, it's like 2:30 at this time. And then I got this, but it still had some defects. So I was like, what the heck is going on? So I ended up changing the nozzle. I changed a bunch of the temperature settings, changed the nozzle, changed the type of plate it's printing on. I feel like I changed more than that, but then I got it to look like this. So that's the plastic right there that it's printing. Oh my gosh, you can just see how crisp that is. That is great news, and it has 14 hours and 23 minutes left to print one stand. So by the end of the weekend, today's Saturday, by the end of the weekend I should have 2 of these, and I really hope that they work right, because that's a lot of time to be sitting around for them not to work right. But it should be really sick to be able to set the motors on them. And then, yeah, there's more to come with how I'm gonna set it up, but these stands are like the first big part to like setting up like the build to be able to like assemble the scooter. So more to come. When this is done, I will check back in.